Folks,
Day, Baba.
just briefly, I mean, what Vesta has that certain very few of us have had this opportunity to spend so much time with the mandali. And so I know Vesta, that's what we're all after. We want to know what it was like. You had this experience from 1974 through 79. I know you went back and forth some. You're going to tell this story. I'm not going to tell it, but you have this unique experience, and we want to know all about it. So that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to turn this over to Vesta to continue.
Okay. All right. The reason why I'm starting with this story is because it was so profound, this conversation I had with Baba and the questions I asked him and the answers I heard. And I'm not claiming that I have whatever telephone to Baba, but in this experience, the answers made sense to me and rang true. But that doesn't mean you have to accept it, because I don't know if it's in Lord Mehera or whatever, but he did answer questions, and my imagination, then I was in a desperate state at the time. So bear in mind when I tell the story that. Do I have to be on full screen?
Not if you don't want to be.
I don't want to be.
You're not full screen. We only see part of you anyway. So what?
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
It's good to see you, Vesta. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Baba.
Well, let me tell you, without all of you, I wouldn't be here. I would have been gone probably 10 months ago. So it's all of you. So I bow to the love you've shared.
So let me tell you, this is recorded, remember? And if you're not full screen, you're gonna get what, 20 little square. I think you should be full screen. If you can.
Okay, I trust you. Hi, Irma. All right, so I can surrender that. That's no big deal. What I want to share is something that happened to me the 3 days before Thanksgiving last year, not this year. The radiation poison and the chemotherapy had really taken me down, and my body was reacting to it. But from April to November, when I started all this, or end of October, whatever it was, doesn't matter. There were months where I had to lay in bed because, this is what I want to tell you. I'm going to be very graphic in the very beginning, because you need to know the state I was in physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I don't want it to trigger anybody or upset anybody. So I'm going to describe in pretty much detail what my body was happening. And my cancer was between my legs. It was called squamous cell vulvar cancer. So if you want to mute me right now and give me 5 minutes, and then I'll wave my hands like this when you can turn the sound back on if anything is upsetting. But I think it's important, like 100 years from now or whenever, for people to understand where I was at the time this happened, so that nothing spectacular, or whatever word you want to use, is used to describe my experience, because I'm telling you, I was in dire straits when it happened. So if you want to mute now, go for it. Did the questions? All right, so what had happened was, at this point, I could barely hold my head up. And poor Gloria was coming, down. She's my neighbor. She was coming down, and she was making, she would make lentil soup and then strain out all the lentils and then feed me the liquid so I could get something in my system, because I was just wasting away. And I couldn't stand. I couldn't bear weight. So she and her husband got me a bedside commode. And from the side of my bed to the commode was maybe a foot, just long enough for me to put my feet over. and then throw myself on the commode so that I could use it when I needed it. Well, this time I was so weak that when I put my feet on the floor and pushed myself off the bed to get into the commode, I fell. And it was totally Baba's grace that I was able to grab onto the bed with my left hand, and somehow I was able with my right hand to go and lay flat on my bed with my butt here and my legs down. But my legs, I couldn't straighten my legs, so I was having to hold on with my hands only. Okay, this is graphic. I didn't make it to the commode, so pee-pee was all over the floor. And between my legs was as if somebody had taken a football and cut it in half lengthwise and opened it and placed the curved end between my legs with the open center of the football out. And there was the disease. There was a huge infection. There was drainage. And my urethra wasn't working because it was literally this big because the cancer had gotten into it. So unfortunately, even though when I felt like I had to urinate, I was dribbling all the time, and that acidic pee-pee on those open areas was just like somebody pouring acid on me, and it was 24/7. And so I'm months into this, and for the last 2 months, I had had a level 10 pain. And they gave me Dilaudid, morphine, Vicodin, which a bunch of opiates and stuff, but I would take them and it would take the pain out of, and the aching out of my bones from laying in bed on my left side for months, but it didn't touch the horrific pain. So I didn't take it. But what I found was that if I used Vagisil, which got benzocaine in it, I could rub it all over and it would give me some relief. It would take it from a 10 to like a 6, and then I could just keep applying it every couple hours. That was how I was kind of maintaining it. But 3 days before Thanksgiving, I thought I knew what a level 10 pain was, and I went to a 12.
Oh.
And I could barely, what's the word? I could barely think. I was so emotionally distraught, just from having this continuous pain. And mentally, all the chemicals and the radiation, I wasn't thinking straight. And it's only his grace, and Rick Chapman and Rustom and Sohrab and a couple of other people, Ursula, Alexandra, who were very involved with me at this time, because I didn't want anybody to know what I was going through. I just didn't want anybody, not worrying, but I didn't want them concerned, or I don't know. I just didn't want anybody upset at what I was going through and the depth of it. But I trusted these people to keep my confidence, but to also hold me and balance me mentally and emotionally, so I wouldn't go down the rabbit hole of despair. So I was in pretty serious state at this time. And now it's morning time and I'm laying on my bed. I've only got a shirt on like I have now because it's November, it's cold, but I couldn't wear anything on my lower body because of the dripping and the drainage. So I was always on pads that had to be changed all the time. So here I am clinging to the bed, and I thought, okay, I can get out of this. I'll grab my phone and I'll call 911, because Gloria had gone out with her family for Thanksgiving. And my roommate that was renting my mom's master suite was down south with his family for Thanksgiving. So I was all by myself. So I thought, okay, I'll call 911, or I'll call Andrew, who lives down on the hillside, and he'll come help me up to the bed. I looked for my phone, I couldn't see it. And then I saw my computer up on the other side of my bed where you would put a pillow. And I had put my phone on the charger. And it was about this far away from my fingertips. I cannot tell you, when I saw that, what I felt, it was like, oh my God, how am I going to get back into bed? night falls and I'm freezing because it's the end of November. And even though it's Southern California, 40-degree weather is cold. So I was asking Baba, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You've taken my cell phone. Drew's not here. I can't call Andrew down the hill to come get me. Gloria and her family are out of town for Thanksgiving. I'm screwed. So I thought, okay, well, something will happen. I just need to hold on to this sheet. And I was holding on to the bottom sheet. But as the hours passed and it got dark, and mind you, I only have night lights at night that come on automatically. So I'm in the dark except for a night light on my sidewall. So I can see what's in the room, but it's not like there's a light on in the room. So all of a sudden I realized my legs were giving out on me again and my knees were buckling. And all of a sudden I started slipping. And I realized I couldn't hold on to that bottom sheet. My hands were opening and I was just losing my grip. So Baba gave me the idea to just grab for the sheet that's underneath the blanket and the quilt, grab for the sheet and somehow work it around under my arms so I can hold on to it. And I can hold on to that, and it'll, since it's under my arms, it'll keep me from slipping. And by God's grace, I was able to take out that top sheet, keep it still tucked in at the bottom, wind it up and run it around me and hold on to that. So that's the first night. The second day, I'm still that way. I spent all night like that. And by now I'm panicking and I can't think straight. I'm trying to think, you're a good problem solver. You're so smart. You know, what's going on? You've got to figure this out. And then all I could think of is I've got to tell my body to wake up. I've got to tell my body to get it together. I've got to be able to stand, because if I could stand and bear my weight, maybe I could let go long enough to throw myself up by my laptop to get my phone off the charger. And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And when I would try to scoot myself on the bed, I didn't have that strength. And what it did was that the reason it was so painful is the area that it's in. When you move your legs or turn or sit or stand, your body weight changes. And what happened was that kind of movement opened it up and I could feel more drainage coming. And I knew I was just doing more damage. So the second day passes. By the third day, I'm beside myself and I'm freezing. I've had no water, no food, no sleep. I'm just laying there trying to look at Baba's photos, just begging for help. But I'm still distant from the situation where I can't figure out how to get out of it. I can't believe I'm in this situation and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. So the day before Thanksgiving, I started getting desperate and I started getting really angry. And I wasn't very nice. My word choices and what I said to Paula was pretty rich in a bad way. So I need to look at my note just for a second. Okay, so now you can turn on if people who have turned off, because now I'm going to start this story. So I started criticizing Baba. I said, it's okay, it's okay. I started telling him, how can you be God? What kind of God treats his lovers this way? You say we're your children, you're the compassionate father. How dare you even say Mehera through your mouth? That's how beside myself I was. And so I started, no. I started complaining. Let me give her a chew and maybe she'll go move. I started to give, I'm sorry, let me get her out of my way. Okay, go. So then lightning didn't strike me. So I thought, oh, okay, I said something really awful, but I'm still alive, I think. So then I started telling Baba, it's a good thing you don't have like a manager or a supervisor over you, because you're really doing a shitty job taking care of them. Nothing happened. And I said, and how dare you treat me this way? You know how much I love you. If this is a test, even if I fail your test, I won't fall away from you. I'll fall forward. I'll fall at your feet. But I'm so pissed off at what you're doing to me that when I fall at your feet, if you don't help me and relieve my pain and suffering for just 10 minutes, I'm going to slit my throat and bleed on your feet. What a disgusting thing to say to him. And I don't even know why he pulled that out of me. And the reason I'm telling you is our feelings are meaningful. They're information for us. Because I had been in such a space for so long of holding my sanity together and keeping myself mentally and emotionally balanced so that I could be spiritually focused and see this as his grace, and this is Baba loving me and all of that. But now nothing mattered. I mean, I was literally, I felt on the precipice of death. And so I shouted out to him, is this how you're going to end my life? I'm going to be found days later, swollen up and stinky, in a pool of blood and urine and pus and everything on the floor. Is that what you want from me? Is that how you treat your children? Is that your expression of love for me? And I was literally, once I started, I couldn't stop. And I hear nothing. Nothing's happening. I'm still breathing. I can still talk. And then I started telling him how much faith I had in him and how I loved him. And it was worth nothing in the end. I mean, if I loved him that much and had so much faith in him and believed him to be God, and this is what he was doing, why did he expect me to believe that anymore? And I didn't really mean that I didn't know who Baba was or believe that he was the avatar, but I was just being mean and nasty. I lost all my filters. I lost all self-discipline. I wasn't myself, but I guess I was myself. So that all happened. And then I started telling him that what he was doing to me was an insult. How could you insult me like this? How could you humiliate me like this? I'm exposed. I'm in a cold room. I'm exhausted. Da 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 da. And I told him I was literally disgusted with who he was and how he treated his children. And then I was quiet. So then all of a sudden, that angst and that anger was out, but now it was irritation, and I had become my anger, but in that becoming anger, instead of just being angry, I was so irritated that nothing mattered to me. I couldn't see anything but my irritation and anger, and feeling, quite frankly, to be honest with you, I was feeling extremely sorry for myself. I thought, I was feeling very sorry for myself. I was shameless at this point. So am I okay right? Am I doing okay right now? Okay.
Doing good in my books.
Okay, thank you. So, but because I was so sincere in every word I said, I mean, I literally believed it. It was duality in its prime. I knew what I was saying was baloney. And yet I believed it, but yet I knew it wasn't true. And so somehow that hit me, and I let the two merge, because I thought, all right, eventually my train of thought will lead me to where I need to go. And by now I'd lost my discipline, so it didn't matter. So I started asking him, I said, okay, Mr. Baba, I said, I'm not going to call you Meher Baba. I said, Mr. Baba, you say you're God, and you're all powerful. You're omniscient and omnipresent, and you know everything. If you know I will never leave you, if you know I will always fall toward you, I will never fall away, you can stop testing me. And I said, give me an F, let me fail, but know that I will never fall away from you. And then I started telling him, I wrote down the questions. So I'm in this altered state, right? And so I started telling him, and I was very broken and defeated at this time, but I started to beg him for help. I said, I have no pride anymore. I have no shame. I'm not afraid to beg you for help. You've got to help me. I've tried everything I can. This is my third day like this. I can't take it anymore. You've got to help me. And all I could think of was Gloria coming home the day after Thanksgiving and finding me dead on the floor. And so then I started saying, you can't let that happen. That's not fair to her. She's been so good to me. And then I started saying to him, where's your compassion? I'm not asking you to cure me or any of that kind of stuff, but I need some compassion. Can you just give me 10 minutes of relief and 10 minutes of strength so that I can pull myself back up on the bed and cover myself and get warm again? I said, I'm freezing. And by now my body's shaking, you know how you shiver when you get cold? And I said, I'm so cold and shivering that is draining on my strength. So if you can't give me some kind of a push or help just for 10 minutes, shame on you, So, and then I started asking him, what did I ever do to you? If you're God, if I did something bad, you should be able to take it and throw it off like, it's no big deal. And I say my prayer of repentance every night. You're supposed to renew me. You're supposed to forgive me. But I think you're holding on to my past more than I am. I mean, that's how I was talking to him. And it was so intimate and it felt okay to say this. It's like if someone that you loved more than life itself was, you felt they were hurting you and traumatizing you and tormenting you and not relieving you. That's how I talked. I mean, I talked to him very intimately, like a friend, not just God. It was like, you're my father, you're God, but you're my friend. But God damn it, stop it. I need help. Please relieve me. And then I kept saying, I asked him, I said, I think your avatarhood is going to prove that God is blind. Because if you can't see me and aren't moved to help me, what kind of a God are you? What good are your eyes? I mean, that's where I went with all these thoughts and stuff. I mean, it was just really base. I can skip a lot of that. I told him, how can he claim to be God? I actually told him, I said, I don't think you're God. I think you're the devil who was very clever and has gotten millions of people to call you God. And you're really the devil. I mean, that's how desperate I was and how open I was. Oh, and I kept telling him, you can't possibly be all-knowing, because if you were all-knowing, you'd know what I'm going through, and I wouldn't have to beg for your help, you'd offer it. So after this and feeling no relief, I started to weep, and I couldn't stop crying. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I just completely lost control of everything. But then I began to beg Baba for mercy. I said, Baba, I need mercy. I'm begging you, please, I need mercy. And then I said, please, just 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Let me die in bed. Don't let me die on the floor. But I need you to give me enough strength and relief to get back in the bed. And then this is what I'm most ashamed of. I told him, I don't know why Mehera loved you so much. If she could see you now, she wouldn't love what you're doing. And that's not the truth. But that's where I was, that I even tried to shame him with Mehera's love, which is so pure and beautiful, that I was so desperate that I said something so horrific. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay now. And then everything stopped. As soon as I said those words, it was like, oh, I couldn't believe that that came out of my mouth. But then everything stopped. And there was silence, but it was a silence, not like when no one's talking in a room. It was a very deep, solid silence. I mean, you could almost touch it. You could feel the silence. And all of a sudden in my mind, I thought to myself, this is God's silence. And we have to learn to listen to his silence, because he speaks so deeply when he's in his silence. So then this is this part where I'm going to have trouble getting through, because it's very emotional for me to even remember, what was going on. But then in this silence, here's my lower floor. Here's the bathroom. Here's the guest room. Here's my bedroom. And then there's a deck here. And this long room is a sitting room, and the stairs from upstairs come down this side. So in the sitting room, as I'm laying in my bed with the sheet around my arms, weeping and feeling such shame for what I said, in this silence, I could hear the shuffle of feet coming from the sitting room into my bedroom. And I knew it was Baba. And by now, I'm kind of at the end of the bed, and I looked down and he was in bare feet. He didn't have his sandals on. He was in bare feet. And he leaned over and he put his left arm under me and his right arm under me, and he lifted me up. And as he did this, I just kind of melted. And all of a sudden, my body got extremely warm, and all this heat started leaving my body. And now I'm on my side, and I can see these green, like neon lights, but they were like little, like butterflies, but not really butterflies. They were just like green shapes about this big. And I could see that they were leaving my body. All these green things floating in the room.
Excuse me, do you have a Kleenex? You need to blow your nose. Do you have one, Andy?
No, I thought I was going to get through this.
I'm sorry.
I don't have any boogers showing, do I?
No, I'm uncomfortable watching you sniffling on. Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So these green things are leaving me, and all of a sudden, the room is so warm, and it had been freezing cold. And I felt, you know how, I don't know if we use them in these days, but when I was growing up, my mom used pressure cookers a lot. And she explained to me how dangerous they were and how important that valve for releasing was. I felt like a pressure cooker had just burst and all the pressure had been released. And I felt very light. And I had no pain. I could feel no pain whatsoever. In fact, I really couldn't feel my body. It was like I was mist or something like that. So these little butterfly things were intermingled with a few green pyramids that were three-dimensional that also were going out of my body. And then it felt as if something was being taken out of me, and it wasn't just my diagnosis. I felt something very deep was being pulled out. And then in a quiet voice, I said to Baba, I said, mercy. Mercy, Baba, you're being merciful. Thank you. I can't take much more. I have no more tears. All I want is your mercy. And then the room was a very, you know how if you have like a room and you've got really nice big candles with good wicks, and that candlelight, how that diffuses in the air in a room? Well, the room lit up. And it was like the pink and gold glow of a sunrise, you know, in the morning, you know, how the sky changes like that. That's what it felt like. And then by now I've been weeping so hard, I had these like plastic bags of liquid over my eyes, and I was having to lift these bags of tears up over my eyes so I could see. And then Baba spoke to me. My child, do you think I don't weep with you? Do you think my tears aren't your tears? I weep with you. I never leave your side. I am the eyes that have seen so much. I am the tears that those eyes produced. Embrace them. And then, as I'm laying on my side, I could feel drops hitting my head. And then Baba said, your pain is my pain. I suffer with you. You're my sword. And I'm tempering you in my love. I'm tempering you for my purpose. And like you know, I know you could withstand it all and would come out stronger. So then I said to him, I said, but Baba, sorry. But Baba, you need to give me mercy. You need to give me some relief. I'm sinking into an abyss of misery and seeing no purpose in life. I don't let me lose my will. And he said, my child, it is the balancing of agony and ecstasy that brings about mercy. I'm going to repeat that because I had just said to him, I need your mercy. Give me mercy. My child, Mercy is the balancing of agony and ecstasy. The day will come when neither agony or ecstasy will distort your vision. Agony leads to ecstasy. When it ends and when your feelings of ecstasy fade, you experience agony at such a loss. Real mercy, my mercy, is helping you balance agony and ecstasy, so my mercy will be continuous and you will no longer have to seek it because you are immersed in it. Oh, just like right now, I wrote in my notes here, I was able to take a deep breath for the first time, because literally I'd been for 3 days because I couldn't breathe deeply because it would pull my when you breathe, you use more muscles than just your abdomen. I mean, and when you go to turn, you use more than just, pushing yourself over. There's a whole body mechanism that works. And so I was finally able to take a deep breath. And then as soon as he said that, I'm going to help you immerse in my mercy, and agony and ecstasy will fall by the wayside. The room filled with the beautiful scent of tuberose that you used to smell when you would go into Baba's room. And then, as if in a dream, my mental state changed, where all of a sudden I saw myself standing in Mehera's garden. And you know how it's an oval, that down here is a mandali hall, and here's the house, and then here's the end of the oval of that area where her garden is, and then the veranda's right here. I saw myself standing with my back at the oval facing the veranda, and I saw Mehera sitting in her chair. And I was so happy to see her. And because these are things that happened to me from the time I was a child, so it was nothing like new. But as soon as I saw her sitting in the chair, I saw that she was going through some papers, and then I saw her put the papers down and lift up a book. And then I had the thought, oh, I wonder what book she has. And then my inner voice said to me, don't think, because if you start thinking and bring your gross thoughts into this is going to end. So I just took another deep breath and relaxed, and I just kind of watched this scene. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I'm seeing Mehera sitting in her chair, going through her papers, picking up the book. And all of a sudden I hear shuffling of feet coming out of the house to the veranda. And here I am looking at myself at the age of 25, crossing the threshold, standing on the veranda. And I've got a lassi for Mehera in one hand and me in the other hand. And I go and I give her hers, sit, and she puts it on her little stool on the napkin that I put out. And I put mine on the table next to me. And we were chatting, and I couldn't really hear what she was chatting. But then she takes this book. It was smaller than this. It was about this big. And she says, here, she says, this is the book that you and Jackal got from Pilgrims and put in the library in the trust office. This is the book on St. Teresa's biography that you brought me to read. And we haven't read it yet. And she said, I was going through it after lunch, and I found the perfect story for you to read to me. So we took sips of our lassi. I put it down. I took the book up, and I started reading this book. But as I started reading this chapter, all of a sudden I was transported back to St. Teresa's lifetime. And we were all coming down this path on a hillside along a mountain that we had crossed. I wasn't with her, I was observing, but I watched them. I'm not saying I was part of her group or any connection to St. Teresa. Please don't think that. But I was watching this, and they came down there was 4 or 5 of these nuns, and they had this old nag pulling a cart that was so cattywampus and old and just making all this noise, of wood and the creaking wood wheels and this beaten down old nag, poor thing, her back was just, like a smile. That's how old she was. And I could hear them talking, saying, oh, thank goodness that we found that man who was willing to sell this horse with our belongings. We never would have made it down this mountainside carrying all our clothes and our shoes and our dishes and this and that. And I'm watching them come down, and about halfway down this path along the hillside, the clouds burst, and it was a downpour, and it was a deluge. And even I felt wet, even though I was watching this. And I'm watching the hair of these nuns come underneath from their cap. They weren't wearing habits like what we see. They were all wearing like caps or something, or long scarves. And I could see that they were so wet that the water was dripping underneath the cap, and hair was coming down along their faces, and they were drenched, and it was muddy. And now the horse's hooves, this horse was very, very old and not strong. And so the hooves started sliding in the mud, and they barely make it down. And what do they find? But 20 feet ahead of them is a stream they have to cross to get to the monastery, where I believe they were going to be blessing new Christians. And Saint Theresa was coming to be at their communion, because I think she was part of bringing them into Christianity. That's kind of my memory, but it's not important. So they're standing at this creek side. And Saint Theresa says to the sisters, oh my goodness, so much rain has fallen that this creek used to just flow along, and it barely reached over our feet. It didn't touch our ankles, but now it was like this. And she said, oh my, she said, we've got to cross that. And now it's not just a gentle flow, it's a rushing, river of water. And the horse just stopped. And Saint Teresa's pulling on it. The other nuns are trying to push the cart. Come on, this and that. And finally, all of a sudden, the horse starts to move. And so they had put all their belongings, everything in the cart. Halfway across the creek, a wheel hits a rock that wasn't seen, and the horse's feet, start to wobble, because the cart's now tilting, and it's creating movement for the horse that the horse can't control, and the cart tips over. All their things flow into the water and start going down. You can see their shoes, you could see their brass pans, their cups, their clothing, their everything was going down. So now they all scramble down this water to try and grab things and put them back in the cart. And they were so smart that they put them in the water first, because they were all muddy before, when the cart had tipped over and gotten all muddy coming down the hillside. So they cleaned them up and they put them back in the cart, and halfway through, Saint Theresa looks up to the heavens and she says, God, how could you do this to us? Is this how you treat your friends? Can't you see how we're struggling? We're trying to get to the convent where they're going to be blessed, and new converts are going to be welcomed into Christianity. And she says, is this how you treat your friends? And the heavens part, and God's booming voice comes down. And he says, yes, this is how I treat my friends, but only my closest friends. And Saint Theresa, because she's got this very intimate, open relationship with God that Mehera loved, and Baba loved hearing these stories, how she talked with God. And he says to her, yes, this is how I treat my closest friends. So Saint Theresa is taken a little bit aback by that, and she says, no wonder you don't have very many friends. So that was so sweet. And as soon as that happened and they started crossing across the river, the creek, all of a sudden I'm transported and I'm up on the ceiling in Arnavaz and Narimann's bedroom at Ashiana in Bombay. And I'm looking at myself laying next to Arnavaz in bed. It's the middle of the night and she's sound asleep. And I always slept with Arnavaz because she'd always wake me up if I had bad dreams or night terrors or whatever. And whenever I was sent to Bombay for business, or if Arnavaz had to travel, I'd travel with her. I always stayed at Ashiana with her. So all of a sudden I see myself start, I can tell I'm having a bad dream. And Arnavaz wakes up immediately, she rolls over and she taps my shoulder, but I'm not waking up. So she got up from her side of the bed and walks down the side of the bed, down the end of the bed, up to where I was sleeping. And she starts gently shaking me to wake me up. And I'm crying. And I'm feeling a little embarrassed watching this because I'm thinking, oh my God, I never saw what it was like for them to have me live with them. You know, what's the word? Not difficult, what a,
Imposition.
Imposition. Thank you, Rosalie. But as soon as that thought came, I heard Arnavaz say to me, she says, oh my God, Marabacha, I can't believe I didn't tell you this. She said, come into the sitting room. I want to tell you what happened. So she takes my hand and she leads me down the hall, down the walkway into the sitting room. And as I walk into the sitting room, there's Baba sitting in the corner in the seat where he always sat at Ashiana when people would come to visit him. Next to him was Mehera, then Mani, then Goher, and Meru. And Eruch was standing over to my left, but a little bit in front of me, but I could see him out of the side of my eye. And as I'm watching this, Arnavaz, who led me in the room, dropped my hand and walked in front of Baba. And she stood there. Then all of a sudden, we hear shuffling footsteps. There's about 25 stairs that come up from the garage area to her flat. And so we hear this coming up, and the first thing out of Mani's mouth and Goher was, oh no, somebody's come early, you know. Do you want us to answer the door or not? Because it's an hour away, you know, and you haven't had your tea yet, and we're not expecting anybody for an hour. And Baba said, no. He said, go answer it. So the doorbell rings. Arnavaz goes over to answer it. As she opens it, standing in the doorway is a Western Union guy with his little cap on, his little army green outfit that's all canvas, and he's got a leather strap. And he's got his pouch, his leather pouch. And he opens the pouch and he says, Western Union for Sri Meher Baba. So I'm watching this and I see Arnavaz give him a tip and take the cable. And it was like a pink, like rectangle that you open up and then the cable is red on the inside. So she takes the cable, closes the door, and she comes and she stands in front of Baba. And I can see over her shoulder, her left shoulder, that she's holding in her hands. Because this was another little lesson or interesting thing that I realized. They didn't do anything without Baba saying, open the cable and read it. She didn't just get the cable and open it and read it to him. She stood there waiting for him to say, read it, read it. What does it say? I want to know what it says. So she opens the cable and I could see the shock on her face. And now I don't know if what I'm about to tell you is the truth. I don't know if it's written anywhere. I'm just telling you what I saw in this state of mind or whatever you want to call it. So Baba says, read it, read it. What does it say? And so she reads, she says, we are sorry to inform you, to Sri Meher Baba, because some people believed him as the avatar and called him Avatar Meher Baba. Other people at the cable office had such respect, but they always called him Shri Meher Baba. What I heard was the cable was for Shri Meher Baba. We are sorry to inform you that Gustadji took his last breath today and died of a massive heart attack. The shock on everybody's face. But Baba went back like this and forward. He said, is that right? Is that correct? Read it again. Read it again. Tell me again what the cable said. So Arnavaz reads, Shri Meher Baba, we are sorry to inform you that Gustadji took his last breath today. She closed the cable and she held it like this. And then she said, Baba, do you want the cable? And as she lifted her head to look up, I could, you know how you can see somebody's expression change just by their profile? I could tell her face had just changed. It was like, oh my goodness. And Mehera looks over to Baba and tears were rolling down Baba's face. Then I saw Eruch and Mani give that glance like, do you believe this is happening? Can you believe this? No words were exchanged. And Baba says, what are you thinking? Nothing, Baba, nothing. No, Eruch, well, why did you give that look to Mani? No reason, Baba. Mani, why did you look back to Eruch the way you did? Well, Baba, I can't believe it. We were in Meherazad when Jamshed died, your own brother, and you wanted to send out to the bazaar for pendas, and pendas are about that big. They're a luscious, very sweet, tasty Indian treat, a sweet. So you wanted to send out for pendas. And then when we told you that was inappropriate, that was for weddings or births or anniversaries, not for when somebody dies, especially your own brother. So Baba turns and he looks, he's sitting in the corner. Arnavaz is here, Eruch is here, and to his right side are Mehera, Mani, Goher, and Meru. And he looks at them and he said, and he looks up at Eruch and he looks over to Arnavaz. And then he leans forward and the tears are still coming and he says, do you think my heart is made of stone? Do you think I don't feel things? How can you think that? Gustadji was my friend, my dearest friend. He kept silence before I started my silence. He was with another master who sent him to me, and he obeyed that order and came and served me faithfully till his last breath. Don't think that I don't feel or cry or miss people when they're gone, especially my friends. Then, I need to look at my notes because I think I'm forgetting something. Paula or Betty, do you remember anything I'm forgetting at this point?
I don't think you're forgetting
Okay,
anything.
all right. So that was when Baba said that, it was like, whoa, that's truth. And what he said to me about mercy and my tears are his, that's truth, because I saw it. It was absolutely clear. So as soon as everything went blank again, and hearing and seeing that at Ashiana, all of a sudden I was aware I was in my bedroom and I was lying in bed. And so Baba put his hands on me again and he said, you know, I love you. And I said, yeah, I do. I said, but you sometimes you have a bizarre way of showing it. And I said, quite frankly, for most of us who have fallen in love with you, we've had to redefine what love means. You know, love isn't just Valentine's Day and a card and hearts and hugs and this and that. Love is an obligation. And he said, now you've got it. Love is an obligation. True love is worked at all the time. The minute you stop working at being loving and loving others and being kind and good to those that you love, the minute love starts. Not dissipate. It doesn't continue growing or you come to like a stalemate. Love is a work in process. So then, as I was just about to, what is the word? I was so exhausted, and now I'm even in more drained state, because now I'm spiritually just like overwhelmed. So it wasn't just so much being emotionally and mentally imbalanced, but now I'm overwhelmed spiritually. And I'd never experienced that before. So I didn't know what to do. And so Baba said again to me, he says, remember, he said, this is how I treat my closest friends. So consider yourself my friend. And I said, Baba, I said, if you're taking me for a friend, it's no wonder you don't have so many friends if you treat me this way. Who'd want to be your friend? And he said, that's right. He said, but you're smart enough to know that I'm your friend. And that was it. And after everything went, the tuberose aroma, the scent dissipated, and my room went down to just the night lights. And what was I just going to say? I lost my train of thought. It'll come. So anyway, that's, I slept for 2 days. Deep sleep. And I was able to get out, stand up on my legs, turn around properly and sit properly on the commode and get back in bed. So I don't know what he did then, but I slept for 2 days, and I literally, my pain was probably 4 or 5, which I consider no pain at all. I mean, after what I had gone through, when it goes down to a 4 or 5, that's like not having any pain at all. So anyway, that was what happened. And I collected myself before I fell asleep. And it's now 5:30 in the morning, and it's Thanksgiving morning. So I grabbed my cell and I called Rustom in New York. And I told him this whole thing that happened. And then Sohrab was called. And then I called Rick Chapman and told him. And I called Ursula and Eric, who were up for Thanksgiving. I mean, Ursula and Ed, who were up at Eric's for Thanksgiving. And they were just having their morning coffee. It must have been around 7 o'clock by this time. And I told them this story while they were having their coffee. And we all of us, every time I told the story, I mean, Rustom and Sohrab just sobbed. Rick, Sheryl, I mean, they were so touched. Ed and Ursula, Eric, what a sweetheart. I just love Eric. Anyway, it was, everybody kept saying the big thing was that agony and ecstasy blend, and that's where you find mercy. And anyway, so that's the story. And I've only told a few other people. I've told Paula, I've told Betty. After I hung up with Ursula and Ed, my nephew called. And they were at Trader Joe's in Las Vegas getting stuff to go over to his uncle's house for Thanksgiving dinner. He had to leave Trader Joe's because he was sobbing. He's Catholic, and he's like a Father Romero Catholic. He believes in selfless service and helping others. And I mean, he's got that. He supports Catholic charity and this and that. And he loves Mass because he feels he's being purified. He doesn't really care about all the fal-de-ral, but he feels like he's in God's company. But he learned from that experience. He said, I don't need to go anywhere to find God. God's within me. He said, what a Thanksgiving gift you've given me. But he was sobbing so much he had to leave Trader Joe's, and people were coming over to his car and asking him if he's okay. He said, no, I'm just talking to my aunt. And if you knew my aunt, you'd know why I'm crying. Which I thought was so sweet. But anyway, if there's any question, what time? I have no idea what time it is. Are we late?
No.
Oh, we still have a little bit of time.
Plenty of time. Plenty of time. At
Okay,
least-
so take me off the big thing,
Okay.
please. So I'm open for any questions, comments, criticism, clarification, anybody even telling me I'm full of beans. I'm open to it.
If you'd raise your hands digitally, it will help us, be organized about questions.
Who's on here? Nasreen Salabur. Who's oh, is that Melissa? Melissa Reading, is that you? Can you raise your hand if that's you, Melissa?
Yeah, it's me, it's
Oh.
me, Vesta.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Did I tell you the story?
I don't think I've heard the whole thing. I
Okay,
think
but
I
I've
heard a
told
little
you
part
parts of it. Yeah, because there were times I couldn't get through the story because first of all, it brings me back to what I went through, and I have no idea how I did it. And I'm not just talking about those 3 days, with no food, no water, no sleep, holding on to my bed. The level of pain and agony I was in, and I was so raw. Between my legs was like a space this big of a raw hamburger that had lesions, and it was pretty gruesome. And so I had to be literally held by Ernesto and Gloria to go down to radiation and sit there like this and let them burn on an already inflamed, painful area. And they kept saying, you need to take a break. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to die of radiation, but it could be a different story if you don't do this. If I show up and go like this and say, fire away, by God, you better do it. But there were, in the 6 months that I had this radiation, there were 2 times, 2 weeks and 3 weeks, that they said medically they couldn't radiate me. They just couldn't do it. They felt that I would have had a heart attack, or, because they kept monitoring me, and are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. Well, this is happening. And I said, I don't give a shit about, oops, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't give a darn about that. I want to live. I've got a book to write. I've got stories to tell. Just get me there. So anyway, so anybody have any questions? Paula, I know you do.
Vesta, this was a year ago. Can you tell
Yeah, it
us?
was a year ago, Thanksgiving.
Can you tell us about what's happened in between?
Well, he decided that he was going to love me some more and let me go back to a level 10 pain, but I could tolerate it after that. I kept saying, this is your mercy, this is your mercy. That I must have said, this is your mercy a million times, because yeah, it wasn't feeling merciful to me, and I had to convince myself that this was God's mercy. But it wasn't cool. And my last radiation and chemo was the day before Baba's birthday, February 24th of this year, 2022. So on Baba's birthday, because all these benchmarks and things that happened around days that I can remember. Baba's birthday, Amar Tithi, this and that. And when I awoke on Baba's birthday this year, February 25th, no more radiation, no more chemotherapy. I was free of all that treatment. So now I could look forward to healing and recovering and getting through the after effects of radiation poisoning and that double chemotherapy. And thank God, several of you on this Zoom were willing to listen to me and walk me through it. Melissa's one. There were several people that were so good to me.
You're always so courageous, and you always put yourself so firmly in Baba's embrace. It was really a blessing to hear how you were able to manage that. And I was very grateful that you were able to recount the whole story tonight, despite the emotional depth of the experience of trying to relate it all to us. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, because those of you who I had conversations with, while I was having these conversations, because I was so vulnerable emotionally, my mind wasn't working properly. As I talk about things, all of a sudden a memory would come up. What did we say, Betty? Like about 30 memories came up in my conversations with you, and she'd take notes, and she sent me this long list of things that I completely forgot about or had pushed aside and wasn't thinking about. And by God, I think that book is going to be more than 5 or 6 stories. So, and this is the importance of creating that circle of love with Baba and talking with each other, or even popping off a postcard or something, because that brings him alive for us. It makes him present. He's just not, his presence isn't just felt, but he's felt to be present. Well, for me anyway. And that's why it's so, these Zoom meetings, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, yeah, pretty much. I met Paula at the Mehera's tea, and I was so touched by something she said that I reached out to Betty for how to communicate with her. And we've become dear, dear friends. Same thing with Melissa. And Betty's just everybody's friend. Everybody loves Betty. She's raised more Baba kids than anybody in all the universe. All the work she did at the Sahabas is taking care of the children. Val just loved Betty. So nobody has any questions? Gosh, I was prepared to.
Vesta, I'm really, really looking forward to hearing your whole life story. I hope that you're gonna tell us those the chapters of your life, your early life, and how how you came to India, and your incredible time there. I'm really looking forward to hearing.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Next Tuesday night, I'm going to talk about my childhood and how it wasn't mystical to me, but when I look back at the things that I saw and did, and my thought process was very mystical according to what I've learned about mysticism. But to me, it was natural. I thought everybody else had premonitions or this or that. You know, it was like I brush my teeth, I eat my lunch, I go to school, and oh, Dad's going to bring home a dog named Prince. And I tell my mom, and my mom says, yeah, okay. My dad comes home with a dog named Prince. I mean, just things like that all the time. And it was just normal to me. But what happened was, when the preachers would preach all this stuff from the pulpits about sin and damnation and this and that, I always say, but didn't he die for us? Didn't he relieve it? You know, I'm just a kid, first, second, third grade. They thought the devil was in me, and they told my parents I should go be exorcised. So anyway, what about Brad and the Hunter? It doesn't even have to be about what I just said. Can't we just have a discussion? We've got 18 more minutes.
I was just so taken by your vulnerability and Baba having feelings and just the companionship, the depth of companionship that you were sharing. Very touching, very touching.
Thank you. It's all there. We just miss it. It's like that time when we were walking out of Mondley Hall, and there's a tree at the opposite end of the veranda in Mehera's garden. And she gives me this whole thing about what the tree is, where it comes from, where it returns to, how the leaves play a part. It composts and gives it nutrition at the end, how the roots go deep. they saw things differently. And it went over my head at the time. And Bao used to say that was Baba's grace, because you could be so natural and such a goofball, you know, and entertaining and stuff, that you didn't walk around thinking, oh my God, it was just whatever. But that's how they were with him. They didn't sit around talking about Baba being God, or did you see his eyes, or did you? It wasn't until we came in the early 70s and we're asking, what was the scent of his body? What was it like to wipe the sweat when it would trickle down? You know, Eruch always would say that you came to find out about God's being a man, knowing that he was already God. And we treated the man and never sat around talking about, you know, we're living with God. It was like he was the master and they were to be the obedient servants. But they lived together. So they just didn't sit around in orange robes and beads and pray. I mean, they worked like dogs. They ran the trust. They put his events together. They were worked, you know, till their last breath. So that was where I was reparented. So it meant that spirituality was familiar because it was a family setting. But that family setting is exponential as it grows when people come and share that love and their experiences. Because I guarantee each and every one of you could write a book about your life with Baba. Each and every one, because we all have had experiences where it's either changed our life or gave us a course correction or removed us from an awful situation or put us on a better path. I mean, it's all there.
You know, Vesta, I was so moved by the naturalness of I mean, obviously in that moment, Baba had taken away, I mean, you were just right there, didn't know what was going to happen next. But the naturalness of letting all of that come up from the bottom, that was so deep in there. That's what I was really moved by. It was like the stopper had been unplugged. It just came up.
Well, you know, that's an interesting thing, because it was easy for me to stay at Meherazad on some levels. And most of you know this already. I had been sexually assaulted before I went to India. And I went to India to bow down in the Samadhi at Amartithi and then go up to the Himalayas and toss myself into an abyss. I literally had romanticized suicide, and that was my ticket to freedom, you know? And if Baba was loving and he knew what I had gone through, and I was left on the road just below Meherazad, which is kind of an interesting thing. And I was just a few years with Baba. But what was the point I was going to make? Oh, when you say about the things leaving my body, Jackal made an interesting comment that I guess in Chinese medicine, certain parts of the body equate to certain things externally, and so much trauma in that area, and that's where the disease hit, and that's where a lot of the release came from. So, and I don't think that release was just for me. It's like that time when Mehera said I was pure. Arnavaz said those words of hers were not just for you, they were for everybody. And when we're all gone, you have to let everybody know that Mehera said we're all pure. If she's pure like us, means we're all pure like us. We're all pure like them. We're not inherently evil or bad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, literally, we come from the divine and return to the divine. We just have a few little travails and traverses and this and that along the way, but we come from divinity and pureness, and we end up there. That's the goal, to return to where we came from. So, oh, and one of the things I kept saying to Baba was, I'm going to return to you anyway, even if this lifetime I tell you to go fly a kite or whatever. So what's the point of all this stuff if I'm going to come back to you anyway? Why do you need to torture us all before we come back to you? You know, if you're so powerful and so compassionate, just give it. But that's not how mercy works. Mercy means something when the agony and the ecstasy no longer throw you or cause you great ecstasy or the depths of agony. I mean, they become not meaningless. There's a better word, Rosalie. Something's not meaningless, but it doesn't clamp you so tightly in a prison of torment. You know, where you're always looking for relief from agony or afraid when the ecstasy ends, you're going to be back in agony. Because the mercy, it's just fluid. Ellen, it's wonderful to see your face. I haven't seen you for probably 30 years, maybe more. So.
You know,
Go ahead.
Not many of us have been as desperate as you. I mean, that's what's amazing about your story, is the depth of your suffering and desperation. You do a good job of taking us there. You could do a good job of.
Well, I admit I was pretty desperate, and I was pretty nasty with Baba.
Yeah, but I think I hope you do share your life, because a lot of us, we're desperate to be closer to God. I mean, that's what else do we have to do, you know? And I remember in my life, because I'm raised Catholic, and then I was just depressed all the time. And I thought, God, I said, if you want me in the Catholic Church, you got to come back and get me, because I'm getting out of here, you know. And so I think, not to compare the desperation or yours or ours, but we're all desperate.
Yeah.
He came because we were desperate.
We took birth because we're desperate.
Yeah. And the thing is, they call him down, the masters do, because we need him. And you know, he's manifesting, and it's such a mess. But at least we know he's manifesting. It has to be that way. We're just very fortunate to know it has to be that way. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's being exposed that can't be ignored anymore. It's got to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And just thank the good Lord that none of us let Baba know that we would be willing to do some of the things that are being done quite openly and shamelessly, that you weren't willing to play that role. So, because Arnavaz always used to tell me, be careful what you let Baba know that you're willing to do, because he'll take you up on it. So, yeah, I mean, I think of all these people who are taking on this incredible world karma or whatever. I mean, they're in positions of power and celebrity or whatever, and they're doing things and bringing it out of others, this lower energy, this lower, whatever you want to call it. And it can't be ignored anymore. So that's the good news. Bad news is we're going to have to go through it.
Vesta, and this is Baba in one sentence speaking. He says, let the world see the dual show of destruction as the mercy game in realization of truth. Let the head be calm and the heart see free. Life is good as it is. Life is real as it is. Life is my work of realization. That's Baba speaking to Norina, and that line would scare me. And I thought, no, it's like, Oh, that's it.
Well, we all have great fortune this lifetime. I can't imagine not being able to lean on Baba. I just can't imagine, because without Baba, I wouldn't know any of you. I wouldn't have been able to lean on the Baba and all of you. And I'm so appreciative. So appreciative. I'm just so grateful. Thank you, Baba. God bless Angela for setting up these Zooms.
That's the theme of so many meetings. It's the blessing of COVID and the blessing of this, of this
Yeah.
Babazoom.
So there's really no questions? Did I make sense?
You were great. We could even end early. It's 11:30 back east.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, if everybody's done and feeling okay. Gail, you okay?
It's muted.
You're muted, Gail.
It's sobering to listen to what you've said. It makes you reflective. It's not something you feel chatty about.
Okay.
Because it's so real. I mean, the things you said happened, and I believe them. And you were so convincing all the way through that you love Baba and you were mad and all those things. So it's kind of going to be one of those things where it takes some time to process and settle in, but it's all about love. It's all about love.
Yeah. But your health is good. You're feeling okay. I see your little Christmas tree in the back.
Yeah. I had a squamous cell, what they told me was a squamous cell cancer thing. They got it with Mohs surgery. It's on my shoulder.
Oh, okay.
So
that's where they cut around to make sure they get all the edges and just lift it right out.
Yep.
Good,
So
good.
hanging in there. Thanks for asking.
And Ellen, you're okay? You're doing well?
Muted.
Yes, doing well. Baba keeping busy with Maryann in Northern California, grandchildren,
Good.
my cat.
I love your Facebook posts. They bring me a lot of joy. I love seeing what you post.
Thank you. I have such fun with that. It was in India a few years ago, and about 10 people told me how much that I'd never seen, that had never commented, never liked, told me how much they liked them. And so then I'm stuck. What can I do? Got to keep doing it. They said, don't stop. We like them.
Well, I always thank Baba when I see your post of flowers and certain things, because it's like you're bringing the outside world. Because I haven't, except for going for radiation and chemo, I haven't been out of my house since Amartithi of 2020, which is okay. I don't care.
No.
But I love it's like the outside is brought right in, and it's so beautiful what you post. Thank you.
Baba just gives me new ones every day. I think, oh, well, I've taken pictures of everything around here. How could there be anything else? And I go out and there's something beautiful.
Good.
So,
Well, I see there's 2 Gails.
Yeah. I was hosting before. So,
okay.
and I can hear better on one than the other. And I wanted to see all the people, but I can hear better on my iPhone. So I just left it just so I could hear you well.
Okay, all the people here. What does it go? Here's the steeple, and here's all the people. However that goes. So,
Here's
Bob,
the church.
where do you live, Bob?
I live in Englewood, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver.
Oh, nice. I used to stay in Boulder and go down to the white riding stables down on the hillside and ride all around that area. And I loved going with my family up to Central City in that bar where the woman's face is painted on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all changed. I mean, it used to be this great old it was an
Mining
old
town.
mining town for so
Yeah.
many years. Now it's casinos and all of that, but
Oh,
yeah, there are a few things still left around.
okay. Well, so now I know where you are. Meph, I can't see Meph's face. I know Paula. Rosalie's my sweetheart. Irma, I just love. Irma, thank you for your card today. You're always so kind, you and your sweet husband. Carl. Meher Kiran, I don't know. Meher Kiran. Ralph, you little, what do you call it? You little muffin head. You little chicken feed. And Goher, where do you live?
I live in South Central Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Okay.
Yeah, very
So I
small.
remembered that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got the stories of Goher that I sent to you
No.
a while back, over a year ago? You asked for them?
Did I get them? I don't recall that, Vesta.
Okay, I'll send them again.
Please.
Who knows?
That-
I think I do things and then I find out I didn't.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. So
And
if you wouldn't mind.
Marion. Okay,
you're
I'll send them again.
Yes, but I just want to
We
say
all want.
your story is so compelling. It is so heartening to see that, how you came through all of that with Baba's grace and mercy. And it's just amazing. So it really it's overwhelming to hear and know, but you're blessed. You're very, very blessed, Vesta. Yeah. Very,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's Meher Kiran. Meher Kiran, where do you live?
I am at Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, in Indiana?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he says, yeah. That's okay. I just saw on my screen that, well, we're not supposed to talk politics, but I'm so happy that Warnock won.
Oh, did he?
Oh, we didn't know. We've been on
He won the
Zoom for a
Georgia
while.
one.
Yay,
So
Yay.
sorry, I don't mean, it's history and it's important. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but God dang it, I'm happy.
I like him, and he's Raphael. I love it. He's that
Yeah.
Raphael. Why not? I was.
And he's a minister.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I know.
yeah.
I just liked him. I liked him.
Well,
Where
I
I
think,
used to work, sorry,
ahead.
where I used to work, they would say, there's one of everything here, meaning you can't just assume that everybody's on the same political side. There's one of everything here.
yeah. Yeah.
Good thing to keep in mind.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, it's 8:46. Are we done? Let's see. Do I need to? Oh, Mark, do you call yourself Margie or Margipan? You're doing the talks with on what, Thursday night?
No, that's a different Margie. This is Margipan. She was given that name by Roshan, I believe, right? Margie? Marge? This is Marge of Jack and Marge.
Oh,
Margie is
okay.
different. She's different.
Oh,
yeah, different
okay.
generation.
See, I don't know. I see names, but I don't know people. Who's Mer?
I think that's Mur. That's one of Terry's. I think it's.
Oh, like Merwan?
His name is Merwan.
Yeah, but they do.
No, he has. a
One of her
different
children?
name.
Oh, okay.
I think I said hello to him. I don't know.
Okay.
As their name, I just sent him a thing. He didn't respond. But Mur,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know any other Mur.
Okay. Sonober,
Yeah.
can you
Okay.
unmute? Is it Sanober, right? Sanober.
Sonober.
Over.
Yeah.
Right.
Ms. Pine Tree. I
Pine
remember
Tree?
that.
Hey, Baba.
Okay. You tell mommy and daddy hello and
I
good
will.
night to Brad and Hunter. I love you too.
Thank you, Vesta. Good
Yeah.
night.
How is your mommy doing? How's her health?
She's much better. Thank you, Vesta. Thank you.
Good. And daddy?
He's good too.
Okay. I think of them a lot. And whenever I pray, I always say, please, Rava, one breakfast Rava in Bombay with Sanober and her parents.
Thank you, Vesta. Thank you.
Your mom's
grateful.
Rava is famous.
Thank you. Much love
So-
to you and prayers for you too.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the emails that you send now and then. Same thing to you, Ralphie. All right, well, Jai Baba, everybody. Thank
Can
you
we
for
say-
indulging me.
Thank
Can we
you,
say
Vesta.
Avatar, Mayor
Avatar,
Baba.
Mayor Baba.
Nice to meet you.
Yay!
Avatar.
Oh,
Mayor
Meher
Baba.
Baba Ki Jai.
Jai.
Avatar.
Avatar Meher Baba
Baba.
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
All
Thank
right.
you, Baba, for
Jai
best.
Baba.
Night.
I have